"We're fully booked," the receptionist said, barely glancing up at me. I was cold, exhausted, and soaked from the unexpected storm outside, and I owned the hotel. "Hi, I'm Ava Sinclair, founder and CEO of Sinclair Luxe Hospitality Group." But that night, I was just another black woman in a hoodie, standing at the front desk of my own 5-star resort, and no one knew. Before we dive in, if you're loving real-life stories that inspire and shock, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what happens next will leave your jaw on the floor. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. We had just acquired a small luxury chain in Savannah, Georgia, the last piece in a $200 million expansion plan. The media buzzed, analysts praised my bold vision, and investors were calling it the black female Steve Jobs moment. But something told me I needed to see the hotel with my own eyes, not as Ava the CEO, but as Ava the traveler, and what I discovered nearly made me shut down the entire company. It was a Thursday evening, heavy clouds hanging low over the city. My car had broken down just outside the resort, and I walked the last mile in the rain. No entourage, no makeup, no suitcase, just a backpack and water dripping from my hood. The lobby glowed with gold accents and velvet curtains, scented faintly with lemongrass and jasmine. I had designed that scent myself. But the moment I stepped in, the air shifted. The front desk clerk, a woman in her 20s with sharp brows and a sharper tone, didn't smile, didn't ask how she could help. She just glanced at my soaked sneakers and muttered, "We're at capacity. Try the Comfort Inn down the road." I told her I had a reservation. She tapped the keyboard lazily, not bothering to hide her eye roll. "Under what name?" "Ava Sinclair." Pause. Then a long, almost amused chuckle. "Right, and I'm Beyonce. Good night, ma'am." She turned her back. I stood frozen. Not because of the insult, but because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just one employee. This was a culture problem. I tried again, asked to speak with the manager. She said he had gone home for the night. I asked for any available room. She said there was no way she'd let me stay. "This isn't a shelter," she added under her breath. I stepped outside, heart pounding, and called my assistant to confirm the booking. It was there, paid for, confirmed. Still, I didn't call her back. I needed to see where this would go. So I walked a few blocks, found a cafe, and dried off. At 11 p.m., I called my VP of Operations. "Put the staff on high alert," I said calmly. "Tell them I'm arriving tomorrow for a surprise inspection. Oh, and make sure they watch tonight's security footage." The next morning, I walked in again, this time in heels and a sharp navy suit. Hair slicked, press crew behind me. The same receptionist who'd mocked me now looked like she'd seen a ghost. She stammered, reached for a clipboard, and tried to smile. "Ms. Sinclair, we didn't know." "I know," I cut in. "And that's exactly the problem. Board members, local press, staff from all over the region, they all watched as I pulled up the footage from the night before on a screen behind the front desk. The soundbite echoed through the lobby. 'This isn't a shelter.'" Everyone gasped. A silence settled over the crowd, the kind of silence that wraps around your throat, suffocating and cold. I didn't say a word. I let the moment hang. Let the shame settle in every corner of the room. I wanted them to feel it. Not just the front desk clerk, all of them. The ones who had let a culture fester beneath the 5-star polish. The ones who treated warmth as a privilege, not a standard. Behind me, a journalist's camera clicked. I saw the flash reflect off the marble tiles. That's when the hotel manager, Greg Martin, rushed in, breathless, pale, clutching his badge like a shield. "Ava, I had no idea. I raised a hand. We'll talk later, Greg. The receptionist, her name tag read Megan, had backed into the corner, arms crossed, face twitching between panic and pride. I knew the type. She'd smile for guests who looked the part, but to her, a black woman in soaked sneakers, no status, no worth. Do you remember me, Megan? I asked, turning slowly. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I thought you were, homeless? I asked calmly. Dead silence. A few employees shifted awkwardly. One even glanced toward the exit. But I didn't come to fire her. Not yet. I came to expose something deeper. I didn't just come here for a surprise inspection, I told them, my voice steady. I came undercover to test something. I looked around the lobby. See, this hotel was just ranked top 10 in the state by Elite Luxe Traveler. Our ads run in Forbes and Architectural Digest. But my gut told me we had a disconnect, that beneath all this gold and marble, there was a rot in our culture, one that couldn't be fixed by a new suite package or a rooftop bar. I walked over to the front desk and placed a printout on the counter. Mystery guest reports, I said. We've done them at every Sinclair location, except this one, until last night. Greg shifted nervously. We've always scored well in training reviews. This isn't about training, I interrupted. It's about empathy. I pulled another document from my leather folder, this one a complaint log from the past 12 months. Let's read some highlights, I said, eyes scanning the paper. Staff stared at me like I didn't belong. I asked for help, and the receptionist just walked away. Felt judged the moment I walked in. These weren't just reviews. These were red flags. The receptionist was trembling now. I saw it in her fingers as they curled tighter around her arms, but I wasn't there for a public takedown. Not yet. I turned to the staff. Let me ask you all something. When a tired, soaking wet woman walked through these doors last night, not screaming, not angry, just cold, why was the first instinct to push her away? No one answered. You know why? Because she didn't look like she could afford it. And in this hotel, apparently, that's all it takes. My voice caught slightly, just enough to sting. I remembered the first time it happened to me. I was 19, traveling for my first internship interview. I had saved every penny to afford a night at a budget inn near DC. When I arrived, the manager said there was a booking issue. But after a white couple walked in and got a room instantly, I knew. It had taken me years to scrub that feeling from my bones. But now, here I was again. Older, richer, more powerful, and it still clung to me. I snapped back to the room. I didn't build this company for this. I didn't pour my life into Sinclair Luxe, so someone else could feel what I felt at 19. A man from housekeeping raised his hand, quietly. Ma'am, some of us have seen it too, not just with guests, with staff. Certain people always get passed for promotion, always the same ones being asked to stay late. It's not just her, it's all of it. That hit harder than any review. I nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty. Megan snapped. This isn't fair. I didn't mean anything by it. I was just doing my job. How was I supposed to know who you were? You came in looking like a... She caught herself. Too late. I stepped toward her, calm, controlled. And that, Megan, is the problem. At that moment, I felt the shift in the room. Some employees looked at me with awe, some with guilt. A few, like Megan, with defiance. And that was fine. Change never starts easy. But it starts. I turned to the cameras and the press. This isn't the end of the story, I said. It's the beginning of a deep reckoning, one that starts today, not just for Sinclair Luxe, but for every business that claims to stand for excellence while tolerating exclusion. I paused, and then I said something I hadn't planned to say. I won't be staying here tonight, but I will be watching. And the next time I walk through those doors, I won't be in disguise. I'll be looking to see if we deserve to call this place luxury at all. The cameras kept rolling, but I stepped back from the spotlight. I could feel the tension shift, not dissolve, but twist tighter. People weren't clapping. They weren't sure if they should. No scripted applause. No pre-approved soundbite. Just stunned silence, laced with discomfort. That's how you know you hit something real. As the press moved in, I turned to Greg. "Let's talk," I said quietly. We moved into the glass conference room on the mezzanine floor, the same one I had once envisioned for strategic brand rollouts and champagne toasts. Now it felt like a war room. "Close the blinds," I said. Greg did, fumbling slightly. "Tell me," I said, lowering myself into the leather chair across from him. "How long have you known?" He looked up. "Known what?" "That your staff treats people differently, based on how they look, based on who they're not." He didn't answer immediately. The silence dragged. Then, there were whispers. A few guest complaints. Nothing major. I always assumed it was exaggerated. He hesitated. "We meet our numbers, Ava. The occupancy rate is strong. The reviews on Triplux." "Triplux doesn't know what happens when the cameras aren't rolling, Greg," I said sharply. He swallowed hard. "And if you didn't see this coming," I added, "that's either incompetence or willful ignorance. You get to choose which." Outside the glass, I could see the staff milling around, whispering. Megan was gone, vanished somewhere, probably texting a version of the story that made her the victim. Security reviewed footage with the assistant GM, and the lobby, once a temple of calm, buzzed with quiet chaos. "I built this company to reflect excellence with heart," I said slowly. "Not curated empathy, not fake hospitality, real care, real equity." Greg's hands were clasped tightly. "What happens now?" I didn't answer directly. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out a file labeled HR Compliance Audit 6-month Snapshot. "Page 12, I said. "Diversity in Management, take a look." He flipped it open. 3 out of 27 managerial roles filled by people of color, I said. None in executive decision-making positions. And don't even get me started on gender equity beyond the front desk. Greg went pale. "I wanted to believe this was isolated," I continued, "but the data says it's systemic." Back in the lobby, a young concierge named Devin approached one of the camera crews and quietly said, "You might want to interview housekeeping. They've seen more than anyone." Moments later, a short woman in a burgundy uniform named Lorena stepped forward. She didn't look comfortable, but she didn't back away. "My cousin works nights," she said, her accent soft. "Last week she cried because a guest yelled at her, and no one defended her. She doesn't speak perfect English, so they act like she's invisible, like she's disposable." A murmur swept through the room. "I see it every day," Lorena added. "Some guests, some staff. It's who they smile for, who they help fast, who they ignore." A producer leaned into the mic. "Do you feel safe saying this?" Lorena hesitated. "Not really, but maybe if she's watching." She pointed toward the mezzanine, where I stood behind the glass. "Then maybe we're safe now." I saw it happen in real time. The moment truth became louder than silence. "This isn't a PR crisis," I told Greg. "This is a soul crisis." He exhaled, defeated. "I want to fix it. I do. But I don't even know where to start." I leaned forward. "Start by acknowledging that it exists. Then, Get out of the way for the people who've lived it to lead the change. His jaw clenched, but he nodded. I'll call corporate tonight, he said. We can announce an internal task force, immediate listening sessions, mandatory training. Don't build a task force just to bury accountability under a PowerPoint, I said flatly. We've seen that play before. His eyes fell. At that moment, a junior staffer knocked on the conference room door. Miss Sinclair, you should see this. I followed her to the back office, where a security tech pulled up an archive clip from a few weeks ago. It showed Megan, same desk, different night. A young black couple walked in, suitcases in hand, exhausted. Megan barely looked at them before shaking her head. No rooms. They walked out, confused. 2 minutes later, a well-dressed white man in a sports coat walked in. Megan beamed, tapped a few keys, and handed him a room key. I thought the hotel was full that night, I said. The tech nodded silently. I didn't need to say anything more. I returned to the mezzanine. The staff below looked up. Some avoided my gaze, some didn't. A few, like Lorena and Devin, met my eyes and nodded. I didn't speak this time. I just stared down through the glass, not at them, but at the mirror this moment had become. What we built, what we claimed to represent, it wasn't enough. Because if luxury doesn't start with human dignity, then it's just expensive oppression in silk sheets. They watched me, and for once, I let them. I didn't smile, didn't offer comfort. I wanted the discomfort to breathe, because this place had been too comfortable for too long. Comfortable with exclusion, with invisible hierarchies, with the lie that good branding could hide bad values. The assistant general manager, a man named Charles, with a tight haircut and a spotless lapel pin, approached from the side. Ma'am, he said carefully, a few staff are requesting to speak with you privately. They say they've been holding things in for a long time. I looked at him. He blinked first. Clear the lounge, I said. No cameras, no press, just voices. 20 minutes later, we were in the employee lounge, a windowless room with plastic chairs and a vending machine humming in the background. No velvet curtains, no imported orchids, just people. Lorena sat beside Devin. Across from them was Rose from laundry, Eddie from valet, and Kemi from reservations. All of them had the same look, tired eyes. Not just physical exhaustion, but the kind that comes from staying quiet too long. I want you to speak freely, I said, locking my phone and setting it on the table. Nothing leaves this room without your consent, but I need to know what's been happening under my brand. Silence at first. Then Kemi started. Every time I wear my natural hair, she said softly, I get asked if I'm changing departments. One manager even told me to look more polished if I wanted to be taken seriously. Rose added, my shifts always start earlier than everyone else's. I asked why. I was told, you live closest to the hotel, so it's easier. But the next month, another staffer moved closer. They never got the early shift. Eddie, the valet, clenched his fists. 3 times I saw guests tip my white coworker triple what they gave me after I parked the same car. And once, when I corrected a guest who confused me with a bellhop, he complained, and I got written up. Devin looked down. When I first got here, I tried to speak up, but I was told, this isn't the place for politics. They said if I kept pushing, I'd be seen as a problem. Each story peeled back another layer, not just of overt bias, but systemic silence. You know what hurts most? Lorena asked, looking up at me. It's not just the disrespect, it's how predictable it is. We all know who gets the benefit of the doubt, who gets protected, who gets promoted. That struck me in the chest. They weren't shocked by injustice. They were numb to it. I leaned forward. If I created this space, if I allowed this to grow, then I'm not just responsible, I'm guilty. They didn't let me off the hook. No one rushed to say, "It's not your fault." That honesty was the first hopeful thing I'd heard all day. Meanwhile, upstairs in the executive suite, panic brewed. Megan had returned, not contrite, but angry. "You all threw me under the bus," she said to Charles. "There were plenty of times other people made worse calls than me. I just happened to get caught on tape." Charles, ever measured, said, "You didn't just get caught, you got heard, loud and clear." She crossed her arms. "So what? You're telling me we're going to flip the whole hotel upside down because the CEO had a bad experience playing dress-up?" Charles didn't answer right away, but then he said something I hadn't expected to make it to me. "Maybe this place needs to be flipped upside down. Maybe that's the only way anything good will come out of this." Back in the lounge, I asked the hardest question yet. "What would justice look like? To you, not to the board, not to the PR team, to you." The answers came slowly. "A chance to lead," Devin said. "Not just carry someone else's clipboard." "An apology that doesn't sound like a press release," Rose added. "A seat at the table," Kemi said. "Not the break room next to the supply closet." "A handbook that includes our stories," Lorena whispered. That one hit me deepest. Not a diversity seminar, not a marketing initiative. A handbook that told the truth about what it took to work here, to exist here. Before leaving the room, I asked one final thing. Would you all be willing to share these truths publicly, not for spectacle, but for impact? Devin nodded first, then Kemi. One by one, they all said yes, but only if it wasn't sanitized, repackaged, or turned into a PR stunt. I promised it wouldn't be, but I knew that promise would come at a cost. Already, emails were flooding into my inbox from corporate legal. Board members asking, "Is this controlled?" And, "Should we issue a statement?" Number, "Not yet, because this isn't a moment you control. This is one you listen to." As I rode the elevator down alone, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored panel. Hair slicked, makeup sharp, CEO mask back on, but underneath, I was shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing that everything I built might need to be torn down and rebuilt from the inside, and that some of the people I trusted most were the ones who let the rot in. The elevator dinged. I stepped out slowly, heels echoing against the marble. The lobby had cleared of press, but not tension. Whispers still curled in corners. Staff glanced up from behind screens and podiums, quickly averting their eyes. A pair of guests stood by the concierge desk, watching me. The woman smiled nervously, like she wasn't sure whether she was looking at a hero or a headline. I nodded and kept walking. I needed air. The revolving doors hissed as I pushed through them. Into the night. The rain had stopped. Steam rose from the pavement, and the street lamps cast long, wavering shadows across the brick path, leading to the valet station. Ironically, the same young valet, Eddie, was standing there now. He saw me and straightened. "Ms. Sinclair." "No titles tonight," I said. "Just Ava." He looked surprised. "Yes, ma'am." "I heard what you said earlier," I added. "About the tip difference. The write-up. I'm sorry." He shrugged, but I saw it. The tightness in his jaw. The fight not to say what he really felt. "It's not just me," he said. "It's been going on for years. You get good at pretending not to notice, or not caring. But it piles up, every little moment. It piles up." His voice cracked just slightly. "I know," I said. We stood there in silence for a long time. Then he said something unexpected. "Would you like me to call a car for you?" It wasn't an obligation. It was an act of care, a gesture from someone who'd just spent the night reliving years of being overlooked. "No," I said softly, "but thank you." Instead of leaving, I walked around the side of the building toward the employee entrance, the one most guests never see. Fluorescent lights flickered above dented metal doors. Cigarette butts littered the edge of the curb. It was quiet, too quiet. Then the door creaked open. A man stepped out, kitchen staff, by the look of his apron. He was startled to see me. "Oh, ma'am, sorry, I held up a hand. "You're good." He hesitated, then blurted, "I know who you are. I just wanted to say, not all of us are like her. Megan." I studied him. He was barely in his 20s, nervous, but honest. "I believe you," I said, "but this is bigger than Megan." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I figured. Still, thanks for not pretending it's fine." Back inside, I made my way to the lower-level security room. Only 2 people had the override code, me and the director of security, who had conveniently gone on personal leave 2 days ago. I typed in my code. The room hummed to life. Dozens of screens showing every angle of the hotel, live feeds, archived footage, every gesture, every exchange. I pulled up the past 90 days of footage at the front desk. Randomized dates. Within 15 minutes, I had seen enough. A pattern. A black woman carrying a laptop bag gets turned away because her card didn't swipe. A man in a construction vest gets offered a room farthest from the elevator. A South Asian couple is told to wait while we check availability, even though 10 minutes later, a white man walks in and gets a key on the spot. Nothing shouted racism, but the whispers were everywhere. Microaggressions, delayed smiles, avoidance, subtle shifts in tone, death by 1,000 cuts. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. Draft: to all Sinclair Lux employees. What we build from here will not be a rebranding. It will be a reckoning. No one is above accountability, not even me. The values we claim will now be values we live, or we will not exist at all. You have 1 week. Look in the mirror. Decide who you are. Then come see me, if you're ready to build. I stared at it. I didn't send it. Not yet. Because a message like that, it needed action to back it, not just words. My phone buzzed again. Incoming call. Olivia Tran, chair of the board. I hesitated, then answered. "Ava," Olivia said, voice calm but clipped. "Just got off a call with PR and legal. I saw the footage." "Which part?" I asked. "All of it. And I'll be honest, some are pushing to suspend you. They're saying you acted emotionally, that you risked the brand, that going undercover like this was reckless." I said nothing. "They're worried about lawsuits, Ava. Press cycles, shareholders. This isn't the kind of disruption they're comfortable with." I took a breath. Then they're not the kind of people I want protecting this brand. Olivia sighed. "I get it. I do. But this is going to get uglier before it gets better. If you go forward, you might lose them." "I already did," I said, "the moment we stopped seeing people." She was quiet. Then, "I'll stand with you. But just know, this may burn the bridge to the old guard. Let it burn." I ended the call and stood in the dim glow of the surveillance screens. Outside, the hotel lights sparkled. Guests laughed over cocktails. The illusion remained intact, for now. But below the surface, the ground was shifting. And tomorrow? Tomorrow would bring choices. For my staff, for the board, for me. No one would come out the same. Sometimes the most painful truths aren't the ones shouted in protest. They're the ones whispered in polite lobbies, dressed in uniforms, masked by smiles. This wasn't just a story about a woman being denied a room. It was a mirror. And the reflection, It showed us how far we still have to go, even in spaces we believe we've built with care, integrity, and vision. Because luxury without dignity is just performance. Success without empathy is just noise. And a name, even one etched on the building, means nothing if it's not felt at the front desk. I'm Ava Sinclair, and I walked into my hotel disguised as a stranger, but I walked out finally seeing the truth about the empire I built. So now I ask you, what would your business look like if you entered it the way others do? Would you be proud, or would you feel what I felt, invisible, dismissed, denied? Let that question linger, because that's where real change begins. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We share real stories that challenge the world as it is, and imagine what it could be. And tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment where who you were wasn't seen until it was too late? We read every word, and every voice matters. Until next time, this is Fiction Echoes, where the stories we tell reflect the truths we live.